Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Sound Check. I'm your host, Brandon Dela Cruz. Really glad to be here with you today, and we've got Austin Thomas, otherwise known as Spooky Ghost Boy, who's going to be playing a couple songs for us. First one is called Really True, and then we'll be back here for an interview.
Is it really true what they say? Would I be better off if I changed? If I did, could I be happy with myself? Is it really true what I've thought? Deserve the love that I've got. And if I were a better man, could I leave it all? Right now I need you to listen while I tell you where I stand. It all seems like too much to carry. It can only be left in my hands. And the only thing that you know is that people change and let go. Is it worth all the trouble now to be there at all? But it has to be. But let's hope that eventually we all cope, and in time all the bitter taste starts to fade away. Right now I need you to listen while I tell you where I stand. It all seems like too much to carry. It can only be left in my hands.
Hey everybody, we are here with Austin Thomas, also known as Spooky Ghost Boy, and just to have a little chat about your music. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
First of all, where are you from?
My family lives in Houston, but I was a military brat, so I don't technically have like a hometown.
None at all?
No, not really. I mean, I moved kind of every 2 to 3 years my whole life, but I was born in Dayton, Ohio.
Okay. All right.
So-
Well, I mean, that's somewhere to start.
Yeah.
Place. What kind of places? Where did you go to? Was it your dad that was in the military?
Yeah, my dad was Air Force, and we lived. I think we moved like 9 times before I left for college, and I lived in Okinawa, Japan for 3 years, and then Atlanta, a couple places in Virginia, Florida, Phoenix for a while, and then right before I moved to Nashville, I lived in Houston for a year.
Okay. Yeah. So you're telling me that you were totally fine with all this. What was school like for you? I mean, you didn't have any issues like switching around like that?
No, it wasn't too. I mean, I started school a year early because I was living in Japan at the time, and their cutoff dates were different. than in the U.S. So when I moved back to the States, I was a year ahead, I guess, of everyone else. Never was too much trouble. I did like public school for a while. I did, and then at the end of when I was in my sophomore year of high school, I switched to online school.
That's cool. Just
Yeah, it was just like we didn't like the schools in my area were pretty bad at that time.
okay.
And so I decided to do online school, and I also started working at the same time. I was working at a newspaper.
What were you doing for them?
I did like I started off doing photojournalism stuff, and then I ended up starting to do just like normal journalism, like writing stories, and I got a couple things like published in the paper, and yeah, that was kind of my high school, my later high school career.
So you came right out of the gates just killing it. Like most people, you realize are doing stuff like that after they get out of college, not before they get to college.
No, it was a cool. I mean, it was through the Air Force.
Oh, okay.
They had like a youth employment program, and so I kind of got lucky being able to have that. And they had me do a lot of really cool like photo ops, and I got to hang out with like the Air Force pilots and do some cool stuff with them. Yeah, it was a cool experience.
That sounds great. I mean, I'd love to do that. That sounds amazing. So at what point did you start doing music? Like, when did that come into play for you?
I started playing piano when I was 10, and then I think a year or two after that, I got a guitar.
Were you taking lessons or anything?
No, well, I did keyboard lessons for 2 years. I really didn't like the lessons.
Why not? Was it the teacher or was it the material?
It was just like I don't remember exactly what the teacher. The teacher was the sweetest old lady. I didn't like the rigid structure kind of at least those particular lessons. And I mostly, when I first started playing music, I enjoyed doing things by ear a lot more than trying to read sheet music.
So like playing along to stuff that you liked. That you
Yeah,
listened to?
totally.
Okay.
I would put on like I would just like putting on a record and then trying to figure out the parts versus like trying to like read sheet music for Furley's or whatever, you know.
So what were you listening to at that time?
Oh man, back then it was really bad music. It was. I had like a Skillet phase.
Okay, all right. No, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, it was a lot different than the stuff I listen to now.
That's fine. I mean, I went to school in Florida, and I started listening to what all the surfer and skate kids were listening to. So I listened to a lot of ska and a lot of
That's
punk.
cool. That's cool
And
though.
it's. I mean, outside of Florida, it's not very cool. But I mean, I agree. I love that stuff. But you know, we all have that
Totally.
that kind of a thing. So you were teaching yourself how to play.
Yeah.
Were you writing right away, or when did you start writing? When did you think? Was there a moment where you realized that you could also create in addition to playing?
I never tried writing until my like junior senior year of high school. I remember I wrote one song when I was like when I was first learning how to play guitar. It was a really bad country song.
Mm-hmm.
When I was 15 or 16, I started trying. I kind of found like the lo-fi like lo-fi genre, like Bandcamp bands type, like Teen Suicide or Elvis Depressingly.
Elvis Presley, I saw them.
Oh,
They
really?
were here not too long
Oh,
ago.
right
It was
on.
it was a great show. I really
Yeah,
enjoyed that.
yeah, he's really cool. I've never seen him live, but I like his records a lot. And like that whole kind of scene kind of put me on to the idea of like being able to be an artist just out of a bedroom studio and not having to have a perfect voice and still being able to have like meaningful, good music. So that was kind of how I started recording, and I bought it. I remember I bought a Yeti USB microphone, and like the first two albums I made, I did everything through that through that horrible microphone.
Yeah, I love that because it's easy for people to get caught up in the idea of what kind of gear do I need to get started? How, how can I record myself and all this stuff? And what you just said is really similar to like how I learned to do things. It's like I didn't have the luxury of being able to pick out
For sure.
to go shopping for that stuff. It's like you have you have an old microphone, you plug it in and you just hope for the best and you make it work the way that it can work. And it's also how you learn how to, it really helps to be able to make the mistakes and learn, okay, this is not the way to do it.
Oh yeah, totally.
I mean, and you don't have compressors, you don't have help that you get later on when you go up a little bit more.
Yeah, it was nice having like having being limited in the amount of gear I had, and then being able to gradually build that on my own, I think was helpful, and just being able to develop myself as a producer and engineer. Being able to have one new tool at a time and learn how to completely utilize that, and then move on to the next thing and slowly build like this arsenal of audio techniques.
Yeah. So at this point you have started writing some. Are you playing shows yet or no?
No, I never. The first show I ever played, I think, was my freshman year of college.
Okay, so that was after. So you're at this point in Nashville. You're coming to Belmont.
Yeah.
And what was that like? Why did you choose Belmont?
I was never really certain of what I wanted to do until pretty late in my or early on in my senior year of high school, and so I looked into it, and I remember seeing seeing a video for their studio audio engineering program online, and seeing the videos of like Ocean Way Studio and like all like the SSL consoles and thinking like, oh, I want to be the person sitting behind that board. So that kind of sold it for me. Just developing an obsession with wanting to be an engineer.
Was it intimidating was it intimidating for you at all to come into that world where you've got all of a sudden a huge console that looks like a spaceship?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I had no idea what I was I really had no idea what I was getting into. I barely knew I barely knew anything about like signal flow when I came to I didn't understand. I barely understood a preamp,
Yeah, awesome. Did you splice any tape like at RCAB?
No,
you didn't.
No, they phased that out of the program.
Oh, no way.
Right, like the semester before I was taking that course.
That sucks.
They completely took tape out, but
Well.
that's all right because I secretly didn't want to have to deal with that.
It's brutal. It's brutal. It's fun. Like it's fun as a, I did some sessions where I played for some other people that were recording there, and it's fun to do it from that perspective. But I don't think I would want to have to go in and like actually splice everything together.
Yeah, totally.
So since you've been here, you've obviously done more with writing. You've started performing.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about Nashville? What do you like about it? What do you not like about it? How do you feel it works for musicians or doesn't work?
Well, I think that the misconception that probably a lot of people have when they first get to Nashville is that it's going to be, cowboy hats and honky tonk,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of what I was expecting, and I was pleasantly surprised to find that there's kind of a community for whatever type of genre you're into, and I think that the eclectic music scene is one of my favorite parts of Nashville.
Yeah, there is. There's a ton of stuff happening, and there's a lot of venues, and most of the venues are really intimate. So like even when a big group will come through, you can see them in a small place. I mean, even the Ryman is not. It's what, 2,000 seats. And,
Yeah.
And you know, that's always a good place to see somebody.
Totally.
Yeah. So about your music specifically, I think it's interesting that what you're doing is this very quiet, like there's a lot of subtlety in it,
Yeah.
and it's, to me, that kind of music is really difficult to play. You know, and I'm this is nothing against loud music at all. I love loud music, but in a sense, if you're a loud band, you can hide behind that. You can hide behind noise at some point.
Totally.
But if you're performing music that has got a delicacy to it or a subtlety to it, like everything is out there. The notes, the lyrics, everything is out there. So, like, what is your inspiration for that, or like, how do you approach making that kind of music and then performing it?
You know, I think it the dynamics of my music are I think it's partially unintentional. I think I kind of just have naturally. I remember when I every time I played in other bands, I was always playing too quietly, or you know, when I tried to play loud music for a while, and it just like it didn't fit. It didn't match my voice well, and so I kind of naturally fell into doing kind of like this soft indie rock type thing, and it also may be just because when I started off, I was doing stuff kind of stripped acoustic, and so when I decided to make it full band, it was kind of an easier transition to go to like soft, kind of almost jazzy type indie rock than to just go than to do anything louder than that. Yeah.
Okay, so then that's really interesting because the tendency, in my experience anyway, from people that play in bands is tend to be the person who's playing too loud, or they've got it way out because they want to hear themselves or whatever.
It's the complete opposite for me.
So then when you're building your sound and you're trying to create, because you're an engineer too, and you're working on your tone and things like that, so how did you approach that from like the standpoint of your guitar effects or like the amp that you're using? Because again, like it is really quiet sounding, but it's like the tone is full. It sounds good. So
yeah, my guitar tone is pretty much straight. I mean, I don't use any distortion or anything, and it's pretty much straight tone with a little bit of chorus and some. I have a carbon copy that I use to give a little bit of delay. But I guess kind of fitting in like the like subtle dynamics, I kind of like roll off the tone a bit, and so I don't know, it just kind of has like a warm kind of soft sound that I think fits the music well.
So then you record all your own music too, right?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I have a little studio I put together in my house, and I've done all my records just out of that. Pretty simple, couple mics, and I have an Apollo that I use, and that's pretty much it.
Okay, and so do you play all the instruments? Or you
Yeah, I play everything. Occasionally, I'll bring in somebody to do some vocals, or just to kind of bounce ideas off of. But probably 80-90% of what I have on my records is just me.
Okay. And what are you trying to draw from anything when you record as well as when you write? Are there any inspirations for you now sonically that there maybe weren't
Yeah,
before?
for sure. I mean, I've kind of started to get really into the like the '80s revival
Oh,
type
sure.
things like, I don't know, Porches or um, just like the gated verb drums and the chorus stuff.
That's an interesting aspect to explore. I mean, from a sonic perspective.
Yeah,
And-
definitely. Yeah, I've been really into that kind of. I mean, my some of my earlier influences were like Conor Oberst, Death
Mhm.
Cab for Cutie. Um, so I probably kind of still keep some of that with me.
Okay. So, you have a new record coming out.
I do, yeah. It's called 20 something.
Okay. And when is that going to come out?
I'm not entirely sure. It's with any luck, it'll be within the next 2 months.
The next 2 months is your
Yeah.
plan.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's done though. You're finished
Yeah,
with it.
I just finished the masters for it about 2 weeks ago.
Cool. You mixed it and
So-
everything.
I did all the mixing,
Yeah.
and then because I didn't want to spend any money, I also did the masters.
Really? That's
Yeah.
interesting because that can be tricky.
It's not what you're supposed to do.
Right.
At
no.
all.
I mean, that's what they tell you. Yeah. And I totally get that because I've done it both ways, and there is some truth to being able to send it to somebody else and just let them.
For sure.
You know.
Yeah, and it's probably not as good as if I had sent it off to someone, but it's as loud as all the other songs in my iTunes library, and that's really all I care about.
Sure, and it's the result, and if you've got the result that you want,
Yeah.
then, and you're willing to put that work in, then that's
Exactly.
totally fine. So do you work with other bands as well? Do you record,
Yeah.
engineer, produce for them?
Yeah, I do. That's kind of my main gig outside of doing Ghost Boy stuff. Is freelance producing. I do a lot of indie rock bands. Mostly just my friends or friends of friends. They come over to the studio and I've been doing like 2 or 3 records a year for the last couple of years. Yeah.
Okay. And all kinds of stuff. Just
Yeah, I've done some kind of like soul
really
stuff.
Okay. All right.
I've done some like acoustic folk stuff. I mostly stick with like indie rock. I've done some like pop punk stuff, which is what I used to listen to back in high school.
Oh yeah,
So,
that's everybody's high school
oh yeah,
music.
for
is
sure,
Pop punk.
for sure. So that's fun for me to work on. But yeah, mostly kind of like in the indie, somewhere in that range.
Cool. So with your new record and your band, what are your plans for your music?
So I have this record I'm planning on putting out
Mhm.
soon. I ideally I would be going on tour within the next year. I have 4 other guys that I play with around town, and after I finish a record, I just basically send them the songs and they learn it. And I love playing with them. So I'd like to be able to bring them out on the road, and probably start working on another record in about a year or so.
Okay.
Um,
So you've got this new record coming out, and it's going to be released under Spooky Ghost Boy. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So do you want to tell me a little bit about that name and how did that come about?
Yeah. So the first music I ever released was for a buddy who was making this Halloween themed video, and he wanted some background music for it. So I decided to make some for him, and I sent it his way, and then he put out the video, and he wanted to know what to credit it as, and I wasn't planning on really doing much else, so I was just like, just say it's Ghost Boy, and then I wanted it to be Ghost Boy, and then I actually ended up trying to go online and register that, and apparently there was a pornographic comic book under that name.
Oh, cool.
So I decided
Right.
to add the spooky bit,
Sure.
and now unfortunately it's stuck. So
Unfortunately, as in you're not a fan of it. Or?
I just think it's a goofy name, but but people seem to like it generally. So
I mean, I think it fits what you're doing. I think it's cool. It works. So, and so where can people find this, or where can people find your music right now if they wanted to hear it?
it's on all the major music retailers
Sure.
under Spooky Ghost Boy,
Okay.
and I also post things on under Ghost Boy Spooky, because someone took the actual name on Instagram and Twitter.
Oh, so you reversed it a little
I
bit.
did.
Don't
I
get confused.
switched it up.
Make sure you follow Ghost Boy Spooky and not
Yes.
Spooky Ghost
Yes,
Boy. That's another person.
The only social media with premium Spooky Ghost Boy content.
Excellent. So we're gonna have you do another song.
Cool.
It's called Solo,
Yes, it is.
and it's about.
It's about being emotionally low after a breakup or something similar to that.
Excellent. Well, thank you for being here, and I look forward to hearing that song.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Looking forward to it.
You were my best friend. I thought I'd have you till the world ends, but now I'm staring at a blank page, hoping I'll get by when someone passing by says your name. It's hard to see what you mean to me. I'll never know why it's got me so low. We got a long way, but if we stop now, what does that say? I'm trying to keep it cool, but you won't, that's fine. Take your time and I'll deal with the landslide and keep it inside. It's hard to see what you mean to me. I'll never know why it's got me so low.
That was really great. Thank you. Austin Thomas, everybody, aka Spooky Ghost Boy. That was Solo. And as always, thank you for watching. From everyone here at Soundcheck, we really appreciate you. We'll see you next time, and keep listening outside the lines.
Thank